Hey, it's me, MLB. Here is part 4 of For Money, the Mei Mei X male listener. Enjoy. Pulling your GPS from your pocket, you checked to see where these two particular colleagues were, and then you dragged your recovered body to the side of the cave. He'll be fine here for now, but we need to get to them, you said urgently, referring to your colleagues. They're in the other part of the cave, probably down the right branch of this cave. Without a moment's hesitation, you, Mei Mei, and Wee Wee all took off running back the way you had come down the cave, all of you knowing the seriousness of the situation and acting accordingly. It was only a short run back to the fork in the tunnel that you had first intercepted, and then you turned and ran down the right-hand turn of the tunnel, holding your GPS in hand as you kept an eye on their location. Both are still in the same spot. They're not moving, fortunately, you said out loud. Although, unfortunately too, if they're not moving, they could be dead. That's always the other option. Mei Mei looked at you from the corner of her eye around her braid as she ran. If she didn't know any better, she would have thought that you were from the sorcerer world, just from your matter-of-fact approach to life and how you had accepted that death was always a real possibility in any of these dangerous situations, and spoke about it with an almost dry humour. It was very like someone from her world. She liked that. You were right up her alley. She remembered how she felt when your muscles were bunching too when you carried her up and down the cliff face near the waterfall and had to take a second to compose herself. She'd be lying if she said she hadn't found that quite an attractive feature. As you ran, you checked their location again and could see that you were heading in the right direction, and you were almost there. We're on our way, over. Can you hear me? Over, you said into the radio. 5 clicks out from your location, over. The radio in your hand crackled and popped, indicating that someone had heard your call on the other end and was trying to respond, but it was way too distorted to understand, and you looked at Mei Mei. At this distance, we should be able to hear them clearly. We're almost there, you said to her. She nodded, knowing there would definitely be something for her to fight when she got there. Feet still pounding the ground, all 3 of you kept running. As you descended upon your small group of rescue personnel ahead, you could make out their bodies, with 2 curses wrapped around their heads, suffocating them slowly. And you yelled for Mei Mei to do her thing. Watch out for my men, you shouted as she jumped ahead and swung her axe, narrowly missing both your colleagues' heads, but managing to decapitate the curses and do away with them quickly. As both colleagues were released, they flopped to the ground, panting and silently thanking all of the gods that they had their lives still intact after whatever that thing was. What happened? What was that? One guy asked you through a raspy voice. Bad stuff, you replied. We need to get out of here. You shone your torches around on the ground and saw the 2 bodies that had inadvertently housed the curses, but were also the bodies that needed rescuing, and you crouched down to check them over. Where'd you find them? You asked your 2 colleagues, who were still trying to make sense of what had happened, looking around to see if there was some kind of man monster that had been strangling them. The second guy said, we had to pull them out of a smaller cave. It looks like they may have been trying to get to the bottom of that waterfall, and they thought they could climb down through what looked like a bit of a staircase, but then it just dropped, and it was a dead end at the bottom. You could see where they had slipped on the dirt edging and fallen in, and then they just got stuck there. The sad thing is, it really feels like that they possibly only just died. Rigor mortis hasn't set in yet. You nodded and stepped over to the 2 bodies, feeling for pulses and looking them over for any other signs of injury. They were definitely dead, there was no doubt about it. But it's true, if the rescue crew had come in a day earlier, there could have been a high chance these 2 could have survived. Yeah, I found one body on the other side, you said to your 2 colleagues as you stood back up and walked over and gave them a hand to stand up. I think when he slipped, they wanted to find a way to get down and help him, so they weren't really thinking straight. Are you okay to carry the bodies, or you need some time? I'll be honest, the first guy said. I'm still a little weirded out by that choking attack thing. I'm not feeling the greatest. Yeah, okay, fair, you replied, stepping back over to the bodies and bending to pick up one and slinging it over your shoulder. I'll carry this one. I think he may have broken a femur when he slipped in. I can feel something isn't right when I'm holding him. You commented, crouching and shrugging him while bouncing to get the body to move a little better on your back to a better carrying position across your back and shoulders. You then looked at the other guy on your team. Are you good to carry the other one? You asked him. I can try, the other guy said. I feel really weak after that unknown weird invisible thing was choking me. You tried to just play it down and pretend it wasn't anything big, so that you didn't have to suddenly explain curses and the reality of the world you lived in. You're probably feeling very fatigued, you commented, And we're underground too. There's maybe not a lot of good oxygen down here. You could have hit a pocket. You turned and started heading out, while your other colleague got the body onto his back and followed after you, making a comment to the other guy that he had been with. Yeah, I know what I felt, and it wasn't a dead air pocket. He huffed to the other guy that he had almost died with. Mei Mei heard him too, but didn't say anything. She too was hoping that they would all forget this by the end of the trip, as per the man who had cast some kind of amnesia spell over them. Until then, you just had to pretend you didn't know what was going on and just make excuses, but it didn't seem to be convincing enough for either of your colleagues. It was while that you were all heading back out of the cave that your two colleagues suddenly realised Wee Wee was there, and one guy almost jumped out of his skin when he suddenly twigged that there was a newcomer, and a child, no less, in their rescue group. "Hey!" you heard your colleague, the one not carrying a body, say to Wee Wee. "Who are you? Are you lost? Where's your mum?" Wee Wee looked mortified at this seemingly very rude question, and then his mortified look dissolved into a very indignant look, and you smirked and hid your face as you waited for his reply. "I'm not alone. I'm not lost," Wee Wee said in a pompous voice. "He's my brother," Mei Mei said suddenly. "Brother?" "Brother?" both of your colleagues asked with surprise, and then both fell silent. You were still smirking from up front and waiting for the inevitable questions, but who would be the one to ask it? What are you even doing out here? This isn't a place for you to be." "You weren't with us earlier. How did you find us?" the colleague carrying the body asked him. "I tracked my sister," Wee Wee said proudly. "What even?" the colleague carrying the body said softly to himself. You knew there would be questions now. This whole cover of Mei Mei being a forensics expert was starting to unravel with the sudden appearance of Wee Wee, who, in their right mind, would bring a child to a job like this. Probably best to just wait it out and see what would happen next. Once back outside the cave, you told your two colleagues and Wee Wee to wait with the bodies while you and Mei Mei went back in to get the body that you had initially recovered, but then left in the cave to go and rescue your colleagues, and they were only too happy to do so and sat down on the ground to rest while you and her went back in. "Do you think they suspect anything?" Mei Mei asked you once you two were well into the cave. "Yeah, I think they have a few questions about things that aren't adding up," you said with a small sigh. "How will you address it?" she asked. "Well, they've been covered with that spell that will hopefully make them forget all about the curses and what happened to them, so I guess I just have to keep telling them tall stories until the end of the mission," you said. Mei Mei was silent, and you looked at her. "Why? What do you think I should do? I'm not used to having to explain curses to people, especially when I can see them and understand what's going on and they don't. I've been called all kinds of names in the past. I've got a reputation here as a well-respected rescue personnel, and I'm not about to throw it all away by trying to tell people the truth, as weird as that may sound," you said, feeling an unusual frustration growing inside you. "Do you ever wish to belong to a group of people who knew what you were talking about and saw the world the way you see it?" she asked you. "Well, yeah, it would make life a lot easier for me, that's a fact," you sighed. "There's still time for you to become a sorcerer," she said calmly. "What?" you said with surprise, looking up when you saw the body that needed recovering laying up ahead. "I can't fight." "That's what the schools are for. They teach you everything. All you need to do is be able to see curses. But you don't even need that. There are people in the school that need special equipment to be able to see curses," she added. "I enjoy my job," you said as you stopped in front of the dead body and hauled it up over one shoulder. "You could do both jobs," Mei Mei offered. "Becoming a sorcerer as well as doing this, then you could defend yourself while working." "Yeah, but then I wouldn't need you," you said honestly, then quickly backtracked. Your expertise wouldn't be needed here, and you'd not be making any money from this, so..." "That's a very valid point," she said quickly. "After all, it is about the money." "Yeah, got to make a living somehow," you said. "But, look, I'll think about it." "I just thought that I'd mention," she said, as you headed back out of the cave together. "It would be hard living in a world where no one understands." Oh, Yin or YN becoming a sorcerer? We'll have to wait and see what happens. Stay tuned for next week, part 5 coming then. I'll see you then.